Hello, fans, collectors, investors. Welcome back to Iconic Baseball. I'm Iconic Al. And if you're new to the channel and into collecting the all-time greats of every era, this is your channel. So welcome. If you're an old watcher, I want to say thank you and welcome back. Today we're going to jump back into the countdown, and I'm at number 38 today, which is one of the most gifted athletes on the countdown and one of the most culturally and internationally significant players in baseball history. In 2001, he became the first Japanese-born position player to be signed by a major league team. That year, he would go on to win the batting title, the MVP award, lead the league in steals, and win Rookie of the Year. Pretty good signing, I think. In 28 seasons in professional baseball between Japan and the US, he combined for 17 consecutive All-Star selections, 17 consecutive Gold Glove awards, 4 MVP awards, 9 league batting titles, and he tallied 4,367 hits, making him the international hit king. What else can you say about this guy? He was a sensation. I am honored to present future first ballot Hall of Famer, the one and only Ichiro.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
いきます。
今こそユンケル投入佐藤
行こうか。
今こそユンケル投入佐藤
Like many players on the countdown, Ichiro is one of those that requires a little bit of analysis in order to fully grasp their greatness. If you look at his major league totals, what you have is a Hall of Famer. 60 WAR, a 311 hitter who compiled 3,089 hits, a 10-time Gold Glove Award winner, 10-time All-Star, who stole 509 bases, an MVP award winner, 2-time batting champion, and in 19 postseason games, hit 346 with a 400 on-base percentage. He started his MLB career with 10 consecutive 200-hit seasons, the first man to ever do that, and the only to this day. In 2004, he recorded 262 hits, which beat out a record that stood for over 80 years. That was George Sisler, who held the previous record of 257 hits. Ichiro bested that with 262 that year, a record that still stands for the most hits in a season. This man had a cannon for a right arm, an insane accuracy, which was demonstrated in that previous clip, an amazing defender, great speed on the base paths, amazing contact skills, bat-to-ball skills. There was a very famous clip showing Ichiro hitting a ball on a bounce. So I'll put that up here, which is just insane. The things he could do athletically were very elite. So these major league totals that I just got done rattling off, let's think about this. He played 9 seasons in Japan at the highest level, winning 7 consecutive batting titles in Japan. This was Ichiro's prime. We saw the tail end of his prime, but he had 7 prime seasons in Japan in which he won batting titles. He had 3 MVP awards in Japan. Granted, different level of competition, I get it. But you can't forget that he compiled 1,278 hits in Japan and hit 353 during his Japanese career. If you look at Ichiro's major league WAR of 60, and you added to that theoretical 5 WAR per season for the seasons that he was elite in Japan, which is very conservative, 5 WAR per season. I mean, he had seasons in the majors that exceeded 9 WAR. So if we just conservatively add back 5 WAR times 7 for each of his 7 superstar seasons in Japan, that's an additional 35 WAR had he played his entire career in the major leagues. 35 plus his existing 60 WAR puts him at about a 95 WAR level. And I would argue that it probably would have been higher, since we're being conservative about this. So you're in the ballpark of 100 WAR. That's how I sort of rank Ichiro in terms of his compiled ability when you factor in all those years in Japan, where he was a superstar. And he did have the skill set, the same skill set that he brought over years later in 2001. So you have to factor that in when you're ranking Ichiro on an all-time list like this. Japanese stats are not major league stats. However, we have the benefit of having major league totals for Ichiro, so we know more or less what kind of player he was and how it translated to the major league game in the US. All the numbers aside, he was culturally and internationally significant. Responsible for growing the popularity of baseball in Japan, maybe more than any player since Babe Ruth. So that only adds to the legacy of Ichiro. This is going to be a shorter video because I only have 2 Ichiro items. However, I'm very proud of both of them. They're both definitive pieces for Ichiro, and let's get into that. Here we have on the right a single signed baseball with a beautiful signature on the sweet spot. This is a really good example of an early Ichiro autograph. This is from his playing days. So this is the way that Ichiro signed during his playing days, where you have a nice, beautiful, sweeping autograph. It had sort of a more consistent slant to it during his playing days, much more neat and clean, and you can almost make out Ichiro, the way he signed that. This is the way his upper deck baseballs look, largely, and this is a really beautiful example of that playing era. Ichiro. This is an Bud Selig baseball that I had authenticated by Beckett, and this has been a ball that I've had in my collection for many years. I love that playing days Ichiro. To contrast the signed baseball, here is a beautiful Ichiro signed rookie card from 2001 Topps Chrome. Now, you can see the autograph is quite different than the autograph I showed from his playing days. This would be a post-playing days autograph. It doesn't show the same amount of slant and consistent flow and neatness as his playing days autographs. Still a very bold, clean signature. And I really like the overall impact of this piece. The Topps Chrome rookie card just displays beautifully. Great image of Ichiro throwing a ball from the outfield, which, again, one of his true strengths. And just the light part of the card where he placed the signature, I just love the card. It's one of my favorite cards in my collection, to be quite honest. The combination of significance of the card itself being what I believe is Ichiro's most attractive and primary rookie card, with the quality of that autograph. It's just the whole package. So this is certified by Beckett. Not graded. One that I might get graded someday. Really cool back here. Here, he has yet to play a game in the major leagues when this card got released in 2001. And so all we have here is about 9 years of stats from Japan. 9 years with the Oryx Blue Wave. And it's hard to believe that he was playing professional baseball at the highest level starting in Japan in 1992. So if you imagine the kind of cards that were coming out in 92 in this country, 93, 94, 95, to think that, had he been playing here, we might have had a 93 finest refractor of Ichiro Suzuki. That would have been something. We might have had, an Ichiro PMG or two. back in '98. So that would have been cool. We kind of missed out on some of those great '90s inserts and '90s cards. Since Ichiro, we know of him as a rookie in 2001, a year he won the Rookie of the Year. But he was playing pretty much all through the '90s in Japan, where he was the best player much of that time. And we see he compiled a career average of 353 in Japan over those years. We can't forget how great he was over in Japan. Granted, that was a different level of competition, but he was dominant from a very young age. I believe he started playing at 20 professionally in Japan at the highest level. Also cool to read this little blurb here. Ichi, as he's often called, which is news to me, I've never heard him referred to as Ichi, but won 7 consecutive batting crowns for the Oryx Blue Wave and has been hailed as the greatest hitter in the history of Japanese baseball. Well, Sadaharu Oh might say something about that, but last November he signed with Seattle, an historic event considering that no Japanese-born position player had ever played in the majors. Quote, "I think he will be a 300 hitter with a lot of stolen bases," end quote, says manager Lou Piniella. That's pretty cool. Lou Piniella pretty much nailed it because he absolutely was a 300 hitter and absolutely had an ungodly amount of stolen bases. So that's a really cool card. It's kind of a definitive piece for Ichiro. And this came out during a period in 2001 where the hobby was at a lull. There was not a lot of hobby activity in 2001, which is one reason I really like the potential for Albert Pujols rookies, Ichiro rookies. There was not a lot of hobby activity. Therefore, these products were not overprinted to the extent that product has been overprinted for the last few years. For example, if you look at populations on that card, total PSA graded for that card, 1,483. So in any grade, that's the number that are graded. So I think that bodes well for the long-term value of players that had rookie cards, especially high-tier Hall of Famers, the likes of Ichiro and Albert Pujols, for long-term value. Well, as always, I really appreciate you joining me, and until next time, keep collecting and stay iconic.